A hamburger, only worth a few dollars. But sometimes, it can be the key that unlocks a whole destiny. Today, Heart Glow brings you the true story of a small act of kindness, and a miracle that turned an ordinary girl's life into a living legend. If you believe in kindness, if you've ever dreamed of a better world, hit the subscribe button to join Heart Glow every day. One click, one story that could touch your heart. And now, let's begin the journey with The Billionaire and the Hamburger. Chicago, the city of towering skyscrapers, endless hustle, and lights that never go out. But beneath that glitter lies the poor neighborhoods, where sometimes the dream is simply to survive another day. Emily lives in one of those places. In the south side of Chicago, far from the bustling city center, is a deteriorating slum, with old, damp apartments and walls peeling with cracks. There, Emily, a 22-year-old girl, lives with her mother in a room barely 20 square meters in size. The room has nothing but a broken bed, an old electric stove, and a few loose plastic chairs. The bathroom is at the end of the hallway, shared with 4 other rooms. Every winter, the floor gets so cold that Emily has to lay down old newspapers underfoot to keep her mother from catching a cold. Her mother, Margaret, was once a dedicated nurse. But after a car accident left her unable to walk. The weight of earning a living fell entirely on Emily's small shoulders. Emily never complained. Since she was 18, she worked various jobs to support her mother, handing out flyers, washing dishes, cleaning hotel rooms. But the job she held on to the longest was at a burger joint called Good Bite. Good Bite was located at the corner near the bus stop, a place where construction workers, taxi drivers, and poor students passed by every morning. The small shop, with faded yellow walls and a sign with several broken lights no one bothered to fix. But to Emily, that was where she felt truly Al. She arrived at the shop every day at 6 a.m., changing into her worn red uniform, donning a baseball cap, and wearing an apron with a hamburger print. Whether it was sunny, rainy, snowing, or windy, Emily had never been late. Her job was to do everything, from wiping tables, frying fries, and baking buns to serving customers. Her hourly wage was only $8.50, not enough to be comfortable, but enough for her to buy medicine for her mother, pay the electricity bill, and sometimes treat herself to a small ice cream at the end of the month. Sometimes, customers didn't even remember her name. Some called her the Burger Girl, others simply, "Hey you." But Emily didn't mind. To her, as long as someone smiled when they received a hot burger from her hands, that was enough. And it was at Good Bite, this seemingly ordinary place, that something extraordinary was about to happen in Emily's life. Emily wasn't a standout girl in terms of looks or any particular talent. From the outside, she looked like thousands of other workers in Chicago, a regular person, facing countless struggles in life. But there was one thing everyone who interacted with Emily immediately noticed: her smile. A warm and bright smile, like sunlight breaking through the rain. Every morning, when she opened the shop, Emily was always the first to greet customers with a gentle question: "Hi, how are you today?" Whether it was a regular customer or a stranger. Whether they were in a hurry or seemed annoyed by the line, Emily always remained calm and gentle. An elderly woman who frequently visited the shop called her the one who brings joy every morning. A college student, though not close, always felt energized whenever he met Emily. Emily had learned something valuable from her mother: kindness is never too much. Despite her illness, her mother always treated everyone around her with kindness and compassion. "We never know who might need a word of encouragement, a smile," her mother used to say. And it was thanks to these words that Emily learned how to face life positively, no matter how difficult the circumstances were. One day, while working at the diner, a man with a displeased look entered and asked for a hamburger. He spoke in a gruff tone, urging Emily to hurry. But she wasn't angry, she simply asked him if he wanted anything else, then served him patiently. About 5 minutes later, the man returned and said, "Thank you. I've never met anyone like you. Your smile makes me feel like today will be better." In fact, Emily hadn't done anything extraordinary. She had simply maintained a positive outlook on life. And that, she believed, would help her stay strong through the tough days. On a cold winter night, Emily sat alone in her room, the rain falling outside the window, adding to the sense of loneliness. She had just returned from a long shift, tired after standing in the kitchen for 8 hours. Standing in front of the fridge, Emily pulled out the last pack of instant noodles, the only food left in the house. There were no vegetables, no meat. Just boiling water and some rough noodles. But she couldn't let her mother go hungry, so she put the noodles in a pot, waited for the water to boil, and then took it out. After quickly eating, she cleaned up and went to the next room, where her mother lay in the old bed. Her mother was sound asleep, but Emily could feel her labored breathing. Emily gently adjusted the blanket for her mother, propped up her pillow to ease her neck pain. Looking at her mother lying there, her eyes filled with the wrinkles of age, Emily felt a pang of sorrow. But then she smiled, gently stroked her mother's forehead, and gave her a soft kiss as a good-night wish. After her mother had fallen into a deep sleep, Emily sat at the old wooden table and opened her journal. She quickly wrote a few lines, heartfelt and hopeful. December 23rd, today is so cold. The diner wasn't busy, I only made $20, but I helped an old woman carry her things upstairs. She smiled at me, a little kindness every day, who knows, maybe a miracle will happen. She closed the journal, placed it on the table, and looked out the window, where the raindrops continued to fall. She believed that one day, her dreams would come true, because even now, there were small miracles in her life that she had already made happen. Whenever she had a little free time, Emily would sit and draw plans for the diner she dreamed of. Not a fancy restaurant, but a simple, warm diner where the poor could come and eat for free without worrying about money. When talking to her friends, Emily always shared this dream: I want to open a diner that not only has good food, but also warmth, where everyone who comes in is called by their name and welcomed like a family member. She wanted her customers to not only leave full, but also to feel respect and care. We live in this society not just to survive, but to connect and share. Emily often said this when talking about her dream. She had drawn every detail in her old journal: a diner with simple wooden tables and chairs, a small corner for reading books, a blackboard with uplifting quotes. There would be no distinction between the server and the served, only a loving exchange between everyone. One day, a close friend of Emily came to the diner and said, "I don't understand why you still work here. Seriously, should you keep going? You could work somewhere with higher pay, more comfort." That question echoed in Emily's mind whenever she felt tired. Sometimes, she thought about applying for a different job, one with higher pay and a cleaner environment, but every time she thought of the people in the slums, Emily reminded herself that she couldn't leave. Every morning, when she served an old lady suffering from illness or gave a homeless man a hamburger, she knew there were people here who needed her. And that was what made her stay. Here, every day I can do something useful, even if it's small. Emily thought to herself. She decided to continue working at Good Bite, a place where people like her, who always needed a warm heart, could be found. Even though the outside world might take it all away, Emily's life had been nothing special, until one winter evening, when a heavy rainstorm hit, and the small diner became quiet. Emily was cleaning the kitchen area when suddenly, the door of Good Bite swung open. A ragged old man walked in. His eyes sparkling but not begging, he stood still for a moment, then spoke in a hoarse voice, "Could you give me a hamburger?" Emily was surprised, but she didn't ask too many questions. She simply smiled and asked if he wanted anything else. A little while later, a hot hamburger was placed in front of the old man. She didn't know that this man was a billionaire, testing the goodness of people, testing her heart. If you feel that this story has touched your heart, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next inspiring stories. At Heart Glow, we share stories of kindness, transformation, and valuable life lessons. Be a part of this loving community and join us in spreading positive messages. The Good Bite restaurant was just like any other day, cozy with the scent of delicious hamburgers filling the air. The sound of customers chatting and laughing added life to the space. But that afternoon, when the doorbell rang, an unusual silence fell over the restaurant. An old man appeared. His wrinkled face, silver hair, and ragged clothes made him look like a poor wanderer. Everyone in the restaurant looked at him warily, some with pity, but Emily, as usual, did not react like the others. She looked at him with a gentle gaze, offering no judgment, just seeing a person in need of help. The old man walked up to the counter, his voice hoarse and trembling. "Child, could I have a hamburger?" His question was not demanding or special, but simply a soft request, as though he was seeking a bit of warmth in the coldness of life. Emily did not hesitate for a moment. She smiled, then quickly turned to the kitchen and took a hot hamburger from the oven. She knew the old man needed nothing more than kindness, the feeling of still being respected as a human being. She placed the sandwich in front of him, without asking anything more, just smiling and saying, "Take your time. It's really hot." The old man's eyes shone with surprise, as if he had never imagined that a stranger could treat him with such care. Emily felt a warm sensation spreading in her heart, a simple joy but truly meaningful. She quietly stood and watched him eat, feeling that moment as a miraculous instant of life. After a few minutes, when the old man had finished his hamburger, a silence lingered. Emily stood near the counter, looking at him with a caring expression. Suddenly, the old man placed the sandwich down on the table, his eyes sparkling with a deep emotion that words couldn't fully express. "Child, it's been so long since I met someone so genuine like you," he said with a sigh. His eyes filled with tears. "Thank you so much. I've never met anyone like you, someone so kind." Emily was slightly stunned, not knowing what to say. She just stood there, looking at him with a compassionate gaze. She had done nothing grand, just offered a free sandwich, but that had moved a stranger to tears. "You don't need to thank me. Everyone deserves to be treated well," Emily replied gently and sincerely. She didn't think that such a small act could have such a powerful impact. The old man smiled faintly, a sad smile, as if there was something hidden deep in his heart. He didn't say anything else, just sat there quietly, staring out the window, as though searching for something distant in his memories. When the old man left, Emily felt a warmth in her heart. But the joy was short-lived. Her manager, a person always stern and focused on business, approached her and looked at her disapprovingly. "Emily, how many times have I told you? This is a restaurant, not a charity," the manager said, his voice lacking any compassion. "We sell food, not give it away for free. You need to remember that every hamburger sold is income. Don't be so lenient, you won't get far like this." Emily felt a lump in her throat as she listened to these words. She looked at the manager without responding immediately. She knew that this job required calculation and profit, but she also couldn't forget the people around her, those for whom a free sandwich could change their whole day. She felt deeply sad, not because she was being scolded, but because of the realization that in this busy, pragmatic society, kindness was sometimes seen as a luxury. But she didn't want the manager's words to cloud her belief. Emily smiled gently, then returned to her work, though a bittersweet feeling lingered in her heart. A few days later, the old man came to the restaurant again, and this time, Emily didn't hesitate to sit next to him. She wanted to know more about him, not just because he was a special person, but because she felt there was a story hidden in his eyes, a story he had probably kept hidden for a long time. "Could you share with me your life story?" Emily asked gently. "I feel like you have a special story that I want to hear." The old man closed his eyes for a moment, as if searching for words to open up. "I used to be an engineer," he said, his voice deep and sorrowful. "I had a family, a fulfilling life. But then one day, I lost everything. My company collapsed, my wife left, and my children stopped contacting me. Everything I had built is now just broken pieces." Emily listened in silence, each word he spoke touching her heart. She didn't say anything, just sat beside him, allowing him to speak his heart out. The old man continued to tell her about his days of wandering, with no place to call home, living off the kindness of others. And then, on a cold rainy day, he met someone good like Emily, someone who felt like the last light in the darkness of his life. His story left Emily feeling sorrowful. She understood that life was sometimes unfair, but it was those small acts of kindness, those sincere words of encouragement that could change a person. Finally, the old man stood up, stretching as if he had finished a long conversation. "Thank you, Emily," he said. "I can't stay any longer, but one day, you will see the miracle." The old man didn't leave a name or address, just a vague but hopeful promise. That sentence felt like a small seed planted in Emily's heart, making her wonder if there truly were miracles in life. As the old man walked out the door, Emily's gaze followed him, and inside, she felt a change, an intense belief that good things would come to those who live kindly. That evening, when Emily returned home, she told her mother about the old man. Her mother was still lying in bed, her eyes tired, but the light in those eyes had never faded. "Mom, today an old man came into the shop. He said something I can't forget. One day, you will see the miracle." Emily shared, her voice carrying a strange emotion. Her mother looked at her with gentle eyes and softly held Emily's hand. "You know, Emily, miracles only come to those who give from the heart. When you give, you will receive the warmth that your heart deserves." Her mother smiled kindly. "You did the right thing, my daughter." Her mother's words were a confirmation, a comforting encouragement that Emily needed most at that moment. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but she believed that with an open heart and kindness, one day, she would receive the miracles she deserved. The next morning, the Good Bite restaurant was just like any other day, with the sizzling sound of frying pans, hurried footsteps, and the lively chatter of customers. Emily had woken up early to prepare everything for a new day at work. She felt a strange peace in her heart after her encounter with the old man the day before. Although life was still full of difficulties, she felt like she had done something right, helping someone from the heart. At that moment, a shiny black limousine slowly stopped right in front of the restaurant. The sound of the engine from the expensive car was an unusual sign, drawing the attention of everyone. The luxury car didn't belong to any regular customers of the restaurant, and only a few people inside were sharp enough to notice the unexpected appearance. Then, a man stepped out of the car. He wore an elegant suit, his hair neatly combed, and carried himself with the confidence of someone important. The whole restaurant fell silent, and the atmosphere seemed to pause as the man entered. It was the old man from yesterday, only this time, he was not the poor, wandering figure but a man with the presence and demeanor of a billionaire. Emily couldn't believe her eyes. She froze, unsure of how to react. Now, everyone in the restaurant was focusing on this man. Was this a dream? Or was she facing some strange situation? After entering, the well-dressed man didn't say a word but simply extended his hand to shake hands with Emily, who was standing nearby. At that moment, Emily no longer felt surprise, but rather confusion and bewilderment. She couldn't understand what was happening, but she couldn't help but feel a certain respect for this man. Some of the restaurant staff, upon seeing the man, began to whisper to each other. They murmured, as if someone recognized him. Emily silently observed, not knowing what to do next. Then, one of the employees, the girl working near the door, walked over and said loudly, "That's Richard Belmont, the famous billionaire, founder of the National Charity Fund." The whole restaurant seemed to wake up. Whispers and surprised looks spread everywhere. Now, Emily didn't know how to feel. Richard Belmont, the head of one of the largest charity funds, a person with great influence in society, was here in her small restaurant. The old man from yesterday was the same person, the one who had built an entire charity empire, helping millions of the poor. It was too unbelievable. Richard Belmont smiled when he saw the astonished look on Emily's face. After a moment of silence, he sat down next to her, still wearing his smile. Emily could feel the sincerity in his eyes, but she was still in shock. "Emily," he began, his voice warm, "I know this might shock you, but I want you to know that I was pretending to be a homeless man yesterday. I wanted to test people, to see if anyone I met was willing to help me without any conditions." Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. She listened to every word Richard said, feeling as though she had fallen into a fairy tale. A billionaire like him had pretended to be homeless, just to test the kindness of the people around him. "I've been through many places, met many people. But only Emily, you are the one who didn't ask me anything, who simply helped me with sincerity. You gave me a free hamburger without hesitation, without asking for anything in return. And I felt it from the bottom of my heart." Emily was speechless. She didn't know how to respond to these words. Part of her felt proud, but another part felt uneasy. She was just a small girl, with nothing special except for her kindness and good heart. But now, she realized that her actions had moved someone like Richard Belmont so deeply. Richard Belmont looked at Emily with a decisive look in his eyes, then slowly said, "I want to invite you to New York, to start a big project. A project called Heart of Cuisine. This is a program I've been planning for a long time, a program to help the poor and homeless across the country. And I want you to be my partner in this mission." Emily was stunned by this statement. She couldn't imagine that such a small act of kindness could lead to such a big opportunity. Heart of Cuisine, a project to help the poor, a project she had once dreamed of being able to do, but never imagined she would be chosen to be a part of. Richard continued, "We will open free restaurants for the poor, where no one has to worry about earning money just to have a meal. You have talent, you have a warm heart, and I believe you are the right person to join me in this mission." Emily felt breathless. This was an opportunity she couldn't pass up, but there were so many things that confused her. she turned in her mind to think about her mother. She knew her mother wasn't well, always having to lie in bed and needing her care every day. She didn't want to leave her mother alone, not wanting to step into a new world that might make everything feel distant and uncertain. "I'm scared, Mom," Emily whispered to herself, but then spoke the words out loud with strength. "I'm scared to leave you, I'm scared of change, I'm scared of failure." Her mother, hearing this, with her gentle and warm eyes, seemed like waves of comfort to her daughter. Her mother took her hand and gently replied, "My dear, don't be afraid. I'll always be here, and I always believe in you. Live for your dreams, live for the good things you want to bring to this world. If you truly believe in something, go and make it happen. I will always support you." Her mother's words were a powerful encouragement. Emily felt the steadiness in her mother's heart, and she knew she couldn't let fear hold her back. Her dream was still far away, but now she had the courage to rise up. At that moment, Emily felt as though a big decision was being made in her heart. She looked up at her mother and smiled, for the first time in many years, feeling confident enough to accept the challenge. "I agree, Mom," Emily said, her voice still trembling but full of determination. "I will go, I will live for my dream. I will do what I've always wanted to do." Her mother hugged her tightly, saying nothing more, but her eyes were full of love and support. Emily placed the family photo into her backpack. And the warm moments with her mother flooded her mind. She was ready to set off, carrying a strong belief in the future in her heart. "Move forward, my dear, you will achieve everything," her mother gently whispered as Emily stepped out the door, heading toward a new life, a journey full of hope. If you feel that this story touches your heart, don't forget to click subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next inspiring stories. At Heart Glow, we share stories of compassion, change, and valuable life lessons. Be part of this loving community and join us in spreading positive messages. When Emily stepped into New York, everything seemed too overwhelming for her. This city was unlike any place she had ever lived. The skyscrapers, the bright neon lights, the loud sound of traffic, all made her feel like a small fish in a vast ocean. She wasn't the only one with a dream here, but she felt so small when facing the powerful, the investors, the experts, and the famous figures she never imagined she would meet. Richard Belmont, who had now become her companion and mentor, led her into meetings, introducing her to influential people. Emily felt confused. Sometimes she could only stay silent and listen to conversations about topics she couldn't fully grasp. From press conferences to lavish charity events, each day in New York felt like a huge challenge to her, like a child stepping into a strange world. Everything seemed glamorous and full of potential, but deep inside, Emily felt a strange loneliness. The people around her, whether investors or media figures, all seemed too busy with their numbers and careers. They couldn't understand the world she came from, where a free hamburger could change a destiny. And here, everything seemed far from that simple. On her first day attending a large meeting about the Heart of Food project, Emily felt the coldness and doubt from some people in the room. When Richard introduced her to the investors, a few couldn't hide their skeptical glances. She, a girl from the slums of Chicago, with no degree or experience working with the rich and powerful, could she really make a difference in society? They didn't believe someone like her could do anything significant in this competitive world. One of them, a major investor, didn't hesitate to comment, "Where does she come from? What can she do besides serving food to the poor?" Those words felt like a stab to Emily's heart. She couldn't understand why people would judge her just by her poor past and humble appearance. The pain came not only from the criticism but also from her own fatigue and disappointment. She wasn't qualified to sit with these people. She could hear whispers behind her back, feeling like a stranger in a foreign world. But she couldn't let those doubts defeat her. She had to be stronger, prove that what she was doing was right and valuable. Finally, the opportunity for Emily to stand on stage came. A seminar about the Heart of Food project was held in New York, and Emily was asked to speak. She had practiced for many days, but when standing in front of the crowd, she couldn't control her anxiety. All the eyes were on her, and it seemed like everyone expected something great, something wonderful. But Emily knew that what she could offer was only her own story, a story of compassion, sincerity, and the small desires she had always carried in her heart. She began speaking, her voice trembling, but each word was filled with passion and emotion. We can change this world, not with money, but with kindness and sharing. I come from a very poor place, where a full meal can be a luxury. But I believe that everyone can contribute a little to bring hope to those less fortunate. Everything seemed to fall silent, and everyone in the room listened intently. There were no glamorous or flowery tales, just a sincere heart wanting to do good for society. And then, when she finished, something unexpected happened. The entire room stood up and clapped continuously. Those who had once doubted her now couldn't deny the power of the sincerity and compassion she brought. Emily couldn't believe her eyes, but she felt the warmth spreading in her heart. However, things weren't always smooth. The first fund in the Bronx, where Emily and her team had poured their hearts into, began to face serious issues. Despite the project being launched with careful preparation, reality was not as easy as she had imagined. The meals they provided were not well received, the food was criticized for being scarce, not tasty, and more importantly, volunteers began to quit due to the heavy workload. Emily was tired, but she couldn't give up. She couldn't let the poor suffer any more because of her shortcomings. Sleepless nights, long days of work, but nothing seemed to improve. She felt like all her efforts were going up in smoke. The criticism from the poor and the disappointment from the volunteers made Emily feel truly inadequate and powerless. Could she overcome all these difficulties? Could she do what Richard and everyone else expected? That question still echoed in her mind. One day, Richard took Emily to an old orphanage on the outskirts of New York, where he had grown up. It was a poor, run-down place, but it was also where Richard had learned important life lessons. To save people, you must first understand their pain, Richard said, standing before a group of orphans. You can organize free meals, but if you don't understand the pain of the poor, don't feel the hunger, the cold, the deprivation, how can you bring them real change? Richard looked at Emily with a stern gaze. That was a lesson Emily had never thought of. She began to understand that in order to truly help the poor, she had to live with them, understand the suffering they went through every day. Only then could she find the right way to solve their problems. After this big lesson from Richard, Emily returned to the Bronx, where she began to better understand the difficulties the poor were facing. She no longer focused on the numbers or just the appearance of the meals. Instead, she started listening to each person's story, understanding their real needs, and carefully considering every detail. She began to rebuild the charity with a different mindset. She took care of each meal, each volunteer, listened to feedback from everyone, and kept improving. She understood that doing it from the heart, not just for appearances, was the key to changing the fate of the poor. Gradually, the Heart of Food project became a success story, not only because it helped many people but also because it had learned how to love and share sincerely. In just a short time, Emily's Heart of Hospitality program became a nationwide movement. From small eateries in the Bronx, the program is now in dozens of major cities across the United States, helping millions of the poor, homeless, and underserved. Every day, thousands of free meals are distributed, not only providing nutrition but also hope and care from the community for those less fortunate. Emily looked at the growth numbers, the meals served, and felt an overwhelming sense of joy. She knew this program was not just about free meals, but carried a powerful message about kindness, sharing, and love within all of us. The program became a light, not just in the hearts of the poor, but in the hearts of all those involved in this grand effort. The success of Heart of Hospitality did not stop at providing meals. It also created a strong network of people willing to share, help, and spread love. From volunteers to partner organizations, everyone played an indispensable role in this large-scale mission. And Emily, who started with a small burger joint, had now become a major inspiration to the entire nation. One of the most memorable moments in Emily's career came when she was invited to speak before the U.S. Congress. When she stepped onto the podium, she felt every eye on her, and every word she spoke could potentially impact millions. But Emily did not feel fear. She knew she was standing in a place where she could share her story, a story about kindness, about sharing, and about a hamburger that not everyone could understand. She began her story by recalling the hard days when she was a poor girl working at the Good Bite burger shop. She talked about the homeless man who walked into the shop and asked for a hamburger, and how she decided to offer him a hot one despite her own difficult circumstances. She also shared his words, "It's been a long time since I've met anyone as sincere as you." As she spoke this part, many of the politicians in the room had tears in their eyes. They, who were used to the rigidity and sometimes indifference of politics, could not help but be moved by such a simple but deeply human story. Emily's story had touched their hearts, and they could not help but stand and applaud, recognizing her strength and compassionate heart. Tears fell, and the silence in the room made everyone feel the power of kindness. Emily, a girl born in poverty, had become a great inspiration to the entire nation. Emily's success didn't just stop at helping the poor, it also made her a symbol of kindness. Media outlets across the country began reporting on her and the Heart of Hospitality program. From major newspapers to television stations, everyone wanted to share the story of the poor Chicago girl who had changed a nation. Emily started appearing on television programs, was invited to major talk shows, and was honored at humanitarian awards. Her stories of kindness inspired millions, especially young people. She was not just the founder of a charity, but a pioneer in the movement of helping and sharing. The media created a powerful wave, encouraging people to act and rethink how they could help their community. Emily had become a symbol of faith in humanity, of the ability to change the world through small but meaningful actions. After succeeding with the Heart of Hospitality program, Emily returned to Chicago, where everything began. She walked into the Good Bite burger shop once more, the place where she had worked so hard for many years. The shop was still there, and her old boss was still behind the counter, serving familiar customers. When he saw Emily, he was surprised and then smiled broadly. "You've done it, Emily. You've done what no one could ever imagine," he said, his eyes full of pride. Emily looked at him, feeling a strange connection. You were the first one to teach me about humility and hard work. And today, I want to invite you and all the old colleagues to join my program. Together, we can do wonderful things." Her boss and her old colleagues were deeply moved. They never imagined that the little girl who once worked there, with a simple hamburger, could now change an entire country. And they eagerly joined, becoming part of the great journey that Emily was building. With the success of the Heart of Hospitality program, Emily didn't stop there. She launched the One Kind Act campaign, a nationwide initiative encouraging everyone, especially the youth, to perform at least one kind act every day. Each small act, when spread, would create a powerful domino effect, changing the world for the better. This campaign quickly attracted millions of participants, from students to adults. Simple acts of kindness like helping the elderly across the street, sharing a meal with the poor, or even offering a heartfelt word of encouragement, all became pieces of a larger picture of compassion. Emily inspired a new generation, one that not only sought personal success but also looked for ways to make the world a better place. Finally, Emily decided to establish an organization in her name, the Emily Foundation, to support young girls who have entrepreneurial dreams but lack the resources. The foundation not only provides financial support but also teaches young girls how to work with sincerity and kindness in business. Emily's foundation doesn't just help young girls achieve their dreams, it also encourages them to apply humanistic values to their work and life. Because Emily understands that if each young girl can start a business with kindness and sincerity, they will become the flames that change the world, just as she did. After all the years of hardship, sacrifice, and relentless effort, Emily had achieved a dream not only of her own but also of her mother's. Her mother, who had always struggled to live in the dilapidated house in the slums, was now living in a new, cozy home with all the modern amenities. The house had a small garden where they grew fresh vegetables, and every day, Emily took care of it with sweat, love, and faith. Every morning, Emily and her mother would go to the garden, harvest fresh vegetables, and share them with the poor people around. The new home was not just a shelter, it was a place that held the love she had always carried in her heart. Emily looked at her mother's smiling face, filled with happiness, and felt that she had achieved the most important thing in her life, getting her mother out of the hard times. From this warm home, Emily began to dream of bigger things, about the good she could continue to do for the world. Every day, as she watched her mother laugh joyfully by the garden, Emily remembered the old man's words, "One day, you will see the miracle." And she knew that the miracle had truly come, starting with small but meaningful actions. One day, while cleaning the room, Emily came across an old journal where she had written the first words when she was a 22-year-old girl, living with her mother in their poor house in Chicago. The journal pages recorded her small dreams and big hopes for the future, for a day when the miracle would come. The words "who knows, the miracle may come" still stood out clearly, as a daily reminder to continue living kindly and not give up. Emily sat down and flipped through the pages of the journal, reading the sweet and painful memories from the past. She remembered the days working at the Good Bite burger shop, sitting quietly at night, watching her mother suffer, and telling herself that if she didn't try, they would never escape poverty. No matter how tough the circumstances were, she never stopped hoping for something good to happen. As she read those words, Emily realized more than ever that everything she did, all the hardships she had endured, were part of the journey leading to a miracle she never expected. Miracles are not magical or inexplicable things, they are small changes in life, the acts of love we give each day, she thought. And in her heart, Emily knew that the miracle had truly arrived, beginning with simple but sincere actions. One day, Emily received a letter from Richard Belmont. She had been familiar with his signature throughout her journey of building the charity fund, but this letter moved her in a special way. In the letter, Richard shared that he was about to step down from his executive position at the charity he founded and decided to pass everything on to Emily. "Emily, you have done so well. You have not only changed your life but also the lives of millions of people. I trust you, and I want you to continue this mission, not just as a charity, but as a great movement we have started. You are the one who can bring real change. Keep working from the heart, as you always have. I am very proud of you." When reading these words, Emily was deeply moved. She remembered the early days when she was a young girl working at the burger shop, with nothing but dreams and kindness. Now, she had become the head of a national organization, and everything had started from small things. Emily couldn't believe her eyes. She had received great support from Richard, and this was a turning point in her journey. On a beautiful morning, at the opening of the 100th food distribution station of the Heart of Food program, Emily stood on stage, looking out at the crowd of homeless people and volunteers gathered. This was a significant milestone, marking the remarkable growth of the program, from the initial free meals to the modern, well-equipped food stations. On the sign of the food station, there was a large inscription, "From one hamburger, to 1,000,000 smiles." These were the words that Emily had always remembered, the words of the old man from long ago, and now, they served as a reminder of the journey she had gone through. Every hamburger, every meal, every small act created great changes in the community. Emily felt the joy and pride swelling within her. She didn't need compliments or honors, because to her, the greatest reward was the smiles of those she had helped. And the poor, the volunteers, those who had walked with her on this journey, all of them were part of the miracle she had created. Emily's voice echoed in an inspiring video as she spoke about small actions that created a huge difference. Sometimes, a small act, an act from the heart, is the key that opens the door to the whole world, Emily said, her eyes shining with faith. I used to be a poor girl, but I didn't give up. I didn't give up on my dreams. And I didn't give up on kindness. And now, I've proven that all good things can come from small actions. Every word she spoke was filled with sincerity and boundless love. That was the message she wanted to send to everyone who felt lost. Believe in miracles, because miracles truly begin with us. As Emily's story gradually came to an end, the screen darkened, and only the soft light from the final words appeared. Those who give love are never poor, for they are always rich in heart. This statement was the final period on a long journey, a life full of challenges and miracles. The entire story was proof of the truth that what comes from the heart will always find its way. Always creating unexpected changes, Emily stood beside her mother in the peaceful space of their new home, where there was not only enough food but also love and priceless sharing. She looked back on the journey, from a poor girl working at a small burger shop to becoming the founder of a large charity, changing the lives of millions. Every step, whether big or small, bore the mark of kindness, of the kind acts she always believed in. She knew that miracles weren't magical things we wait for, but what we create through our actions. Every hamburger she gave, every smile she received, was a part of her life story, a testament to the power of kindness and love. And so, Emily's story was not just a lesson about effort, it was a reminder to all of us that sometimes, it's the small things, the simple yet meaningful acts, that can open the doors to the whole world. She smiled, closed her eyes, and in her mind, she heard the old man's voice from years ago, as a reminder, one day, you will see the miracle. And she had seen it, the changes she had created, the smiles she had spread everywhere, with a heart full of love. Emily knew that her journey was not over. She would continue to inspire, continue changing the world, starting from the smallest things. And so, her story didn't end here. It would continue to live on in the hearts of those she had touched, in the hearts of each person, like a bright flame, warming and guiding those seeking a miracle in life. Emily's story wasn't an end but a new beginning. And perhaps, the miracle we seek is the very thing we give away, bit by bit, each day. Thank you for following this beautiful story until the end. If Emily's story has touched your heart, join us in spreading love and kindness. Subscribe to the Heart Glow channel so you don't miss out on inspiring, motivational videos and life-changing stories every day. If you feel empowered and hopeful, share this video with your loved ones. Let your heart be the light for those who need motivation. Remember, small but meaningful actions can create miracles in life. Keep following Heart Glow, where stories like Emily's will always give you the strength to change, love, and live a more meaningful life. Thank you for being part of the Heart Glow community. Let your heart always shine, and don't forget to share this message of love.